Well, hi there. So we're going to do a quick practice problem set about economic growth. The best likelihood for AP test and for this test is a few multiple choice questions. And it's likely that you're going to see a little bit of a free response that touches on economic growth. So that's what we're going to try here. An increase in which of the following is most likely to increase the long run growth rate of an economy's real per capita income? So this is asking about the real per person GDP. Population growth. Well, that's not going to be affected because it's per person. And then it won't increase it in that sense, right? It's not going to help us there. Proportion of GDP consumed. That's just saying like how much of the GDP is consumption spending versus other stuff. And it's not necessarily like telling us what the direction that is there. So that's not really helping us. Educational attainment of the population. Now that's about human capital. So that one's probably going to be it. Supply of money in circulation. No, we know that money supply is neutral to long run output. And personal income taxes are unlikely to affect long run growth as well. So the correct answer here is C. Let's take a look at number 2. Increases in human capital can be achieved by which of the following? So human capital is the quality of your workforce. So building more factories, no. It's going to help, right? Economic growth, but it's not human capital. Reducing immigration of skilled workers. Again, not helping the quality of your workforce here if you're cutting off immigration from skilled workers. Doing that's bad. So that's why actually a lot of economists would say more immigration good, because it's more skilled workers, right? It's more workers, more productivity, more growth. So lots of economists are in favor of much more immigration. Improving the quality of job training programs, that would help, right? That's a big one. So that one would be really good. So I bet it's C. D, increasing the physical capital per worker. It's going to help in terms of productivity, but it's not going to help human capital. And E, increasing government spending on infrastructure. Again, that would help economic growth tremendously, but it's not going to affect human capital. So the correct answer here is C. Number 3, which of the following will most likely cause an increase in real output in the long run? So what's going to create growth? A decrease in labor force participation. No, you want more workers because then there's more production. An increase in the velocity of money. That doesn't have anything to do with growth. An open market sale of bonds. They sell bonds that make the money supply change. We know that that doesn't affect economic growth. Increase in immigration from abroad. That's going to be a big one because that's the availability of your labor resources. So it's going to be D. E is an increase in prices. That doesn't affect output. We don't know that. So it's just D, an increase in immigration. Let's take a look at number 4. A country is at full employment, makes two goods, consumer and capital. Draw a PPC with consumer on the horizontal and capital on the vertical, and indicate a point in your graph labeled X that represents full employment and a possible combination in which both goods are being produced. All right. So a PPC, and what they say to put on the horizontal? Consumer. And so capital is up here. So we'll put a point X here. Point X. Assume there is an increase in the country's national savings. Draw a correctly labeled graph of the loanable funds market showing the change in the real interest rate from the increase in savings. I like this one because this whole question is actually going to be about economic growth. But it does ask us to remember some things from other units. So this is from unit 8, right? This is from unit 1, and we're going to put some things together here. So we know that the demand for loanable funds is downward sloping. We know the supply of loanable funds is upward sloping. And we'll just kind of have Q1 and I1 here. And it says that people save more. And we know that these are the savers, right? And so there's more savers. So there's going to be an increase in the supply of loanable funds. And that's going to cause there to be more borrowing and a lower real interest rate. And then it says C. On the same graph from part A, so this is part A, show another point labeled Z that represents full employment and a new combination of consumer goods and capital goods consistent with the increase in the country's national savings. Now, this is interesting, right? This is a case where we were here, and it's telling us that the people who live in this country are not spending their money as much on stuff. So they're not going to buy as much consumer goods. So ordinary households are nah, we don't want to buy that. And then they save that money, and those savings go into the loanable funds market. And when they're in the loanable funds market, then it gets lent out to investment spending, which is on capital goods. So this is telling us that we're reallocating away from consumer goods towards capital goods. So we need a point anywhere on the line that's up towards capital goods. And then it says part D, referring to your answer in part C, will the long run aggregate supply curve shift to the right, shift to the left, or remain the same? Explain. And so D is asking us to interpret the implication of moving from point X to Z. And if you watched that video in the previous video, I talked about if you spend more of your money on capital goods today, it's going to create more economic growth tomorrow. And this is asking, tell us why. And so it's saying LRAS would increase because more capital today, therefore increase productivity, right? And so it's really just that link chain, therefore increase LRAS. And it's like, therefore, there's more economic growth in the long run because we're spending more on the machines that are going to let us produce more tomorrow. All right, so hopefully this helped you. See you next time.